In Kazakhstan, the craft developed over the centuries, leaving a legacy of unique products of artisans, amazing wealth of artistic imagination, and the perfection of form. A respect for one's heritage, traditional cultural values, these are the main tasks of the current generation. The history of folk crafts is a record of creative research and the discoveries of folk artists. The art of the Kazakh people, their national traits and traditions, were formed and perfected for centuries. Folk art stores in itself a historical memory and national heritage. Masters of folk art have bit by bit collected and continue to collect the experience of previous generations, multiplying them and transferring their skills from one generation to the next. Once upon a time, many thousands of years ago, folk crafts began to emerge. Ancient masters made objects from everyday life, tools and weapons as well as ornaments. The products were extremely simple, and they were dictated by nature itself, full of ideas for inspiration. A huge breakthrough in the future was the use of metals. And for the manufacturing of tools, the discovery of new materials and colorful pigments, and the use of firing clay, as well as the improvement of the technique of fine art. Years, centuries, and millennia passed, during which time discoveries were made and obstacles were overcome on the way to more complex forms. What helped the ancient masters to make something from a necklace with canines and shells of detailed complex forms? The great role in the transition from simple to complex perhaps was the natural desire of the masters to depict what he sees. Primitive activity gradually turned into real art, the successors of which are modern craftsmen. I want to pay special tribute to the diligence and ingenuity of ancient masters, the ancestors of the most beautiful kind of human activity, that is to say, creativity. Nowadays, folk art has not disappeared. It has largely passed into another sphere, and a definition has appeared: arts and crafts. The word decor means decorate. The basis of decor is a pattern, an ornament. And perhaps some objects lose their main purpose, but at the same time they acquire a new one. They decorate life and delight the eye, filling our world with beauty and harmony. Folk handicrafts passed through the ages are experiencing a second birth at the skillful hands of masters. The word craft originated from the Latin handicraft, or carpenter, denoted by different types of manual work. To craft means to think. When certain skills and means of expression become familiar, a tradition arises. And it happens because of the joint efforts of different people. So the nature of folk art is a collective one. This is the deepest connection of generations, from grandfather to father, from father to son. Over the centuries, skills and special techniques were developed. The secrets of choosing and preparing materials were passed on. The original sunny, bright, and surprisingly beautiful Kazakhstan inspired and inspires to this day craftsmen to create art. No wonder our land is rich in a wide variety of folk crafts. The most popular were and remain to this day felting, weaving, and embroidery, as well as jewelry and woodworking, blacksmithing and bone carving, ceramic art, woodworking, leather, and gunsmithing. In the works of masters, the traditions of our ancestors are revived. Their unique products always carry an artistic and historical memory. They introduce the life and ways of life of the Kazakh people. Masters live in large cities or in distant villages, and they continuously work in their shops. Everything that is done by hand is priceless and amazing, because the master spends not only his time, but he also puts forward so much personal, moral, and spiritual qualities into his creation. Centuries and civilizations always change, but handmade products are always relevant. They express beauty and naturalness. Our Kazakhstani masters have such a work, which in beauty and quality deserves to be the subject of heritage to the descendants, which must be carefully stored and transferred from generation to generation. And indeed, many products are exhibited in the country's museums. They were repeatedly exhibited not only in our own country, but also behind its side altars. They were highly appraised by connoisseurs of art. Masters are in constant creative search and endlessly ask themselves the same question: what will I leave behind for our future generations? Will our children be proud of us and cherish what we have created? And the masters are constantly improving, honing their skills, scooping up knowledge from everywhere. Great and invisible works lie behind their shoulders. They painstakingly and independently study literature and visit exhibitions, consult their own colleagues, and learn from each other. Natural artistic taste and diligence, as well as enthusiasm and excellent knowledge of their work, helps them to profoundly master ancient crafts. Many masters of applied handmade art have received great heights in their works and have united an association into a large community of creative people. Fortunately, their circle periodically expands and replenishes with talented followers. They closely communicate with one another, write and discuss articles, share the events of their lives, and make delightfully beautiful collections, as well as organize exhibitions and competitions. They themselves get true pleasure from the work of their colleagues and admire their talent. Why is it? Because the real masters always know where to grow, on the example of whom he can learn and realize his dreams. It turns out that if you are not interested in the work of other masters, then there will be no basis for your own creativity. It is the observation of their achievements that gives them understanding that there is something to learn. Of course, it's hard to talk about a masterpiece when there is no specific set of skills or knowledge. The most important thing is the constant development of one's own skills and abilities. No wonder folk wisdom says that if you block the channel of your creativity, be ready for a desert. It can be developed endlessly, as in many kinds of crafts, and in any direction. And here to each his own will be the masterpiece on the canvas, forged in metal or fashioned from clay. If creativity comes from the heart, then people are drawn to it, and the masters with their works, as it were, can touch the human heart. Artists and craftsmen do not stop to surprise us with their inexhaustible creative energy. We admire their ability to constantly be inspired by the beauty of folk art, and on its basis to create magnificent works. When inspiration comes, then in this state everything is given easily. Ideas come and beauty is created, like music, without much effort and reasoning. This condition is usually coming naturally, but it is also a kind of self-education, a constant improvement of what is inherent in nature. And the eternal engine of creativity in real masters is launched regardless of external or internal reasons. Real artists can fully reveal their potential. There is boldness and freedom, as if wings grow behind your back. And then there are harmonious combinations, bold lines and unexpected solutions. And now the creation is ready. It has an obvious success. The product is in demand. It is admired by people. And when you try to ask the master to repeat, will he remember how he held the brush, or what kind of patterns, the stitches or colors or shades that he's chosen? And why is it so difficult to repeat it? The production of an original can take quite a short time, but when you try to repeat it, it could take days or weeks. Therefore, masters cannot create absolutely the same product. Especially, they can put themselves in the flow to do everything by a template with ready-made schemes and materials. And with a common similarity, we will not find two completely identical works. Their creations are always unique, and in this they are unique in that they can always find the imprint of the master's personality. Kazakh artisans usually master several kinds of crafts and a variety of techniques beautifully. They all go through a difficult path of finding their own voice. Each has his own. Someone becomes immediately famous, while another works for a long time before being discovered. Over the years, experience accumulates, and the level of skill is growing. The work becomes more complex and interesting. At first glance, it is not always clear from what material or how it was made. And if you look into their workshops, you can see the entire creative process, from creating a sketch to the final product. One cuts a dumbra from a solid log, while another works with hard metal. someone with soft and pliable felt, but they all have one thing in common: a boundless love for their work. Among the master's works, there are real masterpieces that you will want to consider again and again. But in addition to aesthetics, they entail deep and philosophical reflections. At the heart of their work are the ideas of eternal kindness and beauty. And each work contains a definite compositional structure, which is built according to the general laws of harmonious whole. But only when the master puts forward all of his soul into his art, he can harmoniously pick up the combining materials, thought throughout the design, and performing his own unique technique. These products can be considered real works of art. There is no end to creativity because it lives forever. The author always continues to live in his works, which forever remain in the memory of those who acquired them and who created them. Passing knowledge and skills down to his students, every teacher tries to make his work to inspire young modern masters to create new masterpieces. The master craftsmen are creators and bearers of folk culture. They perceive, comprehend, and transform it into their works. Folk decorative art is an inexhaustible source of wisdom and beauty, which opens up much more profoundly and deeply than with more interest in them. To learn folk art means to love it, to understand, and to feel it. Throwing away a stone and lying on the road a pebble, we perhaps without knowing it can lose the whole world. But the artist can see the simple stone, the most important thing, as a beauty of nature. Sometimes we need to simply look back, and right next to us we can find so many interesting and wonderful things. Sometimes we do not even suspect what talents are hidden inside of us. The Kazakh people, like any other, have a lot of wealth. These are their preserved traditions. Crafts are the traditional works of art. The bearers and keepers of folk art are masters, artists and artisans, who pass their experience accumulated over centuries from generation to generation. The development and revival of national craftsmanship is possible on the basis of searching and restoration of lost traditions. The works of Kazakh masters are diverse in their use of materials and their interpretation of pictorial forms. A thoughtful form, proportions, and a pattern of ornaments and color transform ordinary objects into works of art. Have you ever wanted to try something with your own hands for a long time? Go ahead and try it. This is how masters are born. It's never too late to start.